Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm delighted to see so many members of the public here for this debate. I know some of them would have liked to have spoken tonight, but of course the rules mean that they can't. So I want to use my time to read some quotes from people who've written comments on a petition, which has 2,448 signatures so far, and a similar wording to this motion. Matthew says, on the most important issue facing the country, Anne has been found to be taking a position contrary to the wishes of her constituents. She has worked tirelessly on many local issues and has been a strong voice in Parliament. However, she failed to convince her constituents of her position and is continuing to promote it despite the strength of the vote in St Albans to the contrary. Anna says, perhaps Mrs May and Mr Lilley will now hold a public meeting to explain to their constituents how they intend to represent them accurately in future, given that their choice to leave will now affect all our lives in many ways for years to come. Tim says, Anne Main cannot have listened to the views of her constituents. Any MP who does not listen to their constituents is unfit to represent them. Rachel says, Anne Main and Peter Lilley hold polar opposite views on the EU to voters in St Albans and Harpenden and cannot continue to offer credible representation. Jonathan says, Anne Main is clearly either out of touch with her constituency or uninterested in representing our views. Either way, her position is untenable and she should step down. It is a disgrace that she campaigned on her own personal opinions instead of representing ours, which is supposed to be her job. I voted for her in the last election, but I will not vote for her again. Joe says an MP who so clearly stands in opposition to her constituents cannot be trusted to correctly represent their views in other areas. Louis says if our Prime Minister has stepped down because his beliefs no longer represent the majority of his voters, then I fail to see why it should be any different for Anne Main and Peter Lilley. Wayne says Anne Main has failed to recognise that she is a public servant and that the views of her constituents are of primary importance. Gloating the morning after the vote, holding the 5 lies was extremely insensitive and intentional upyours to the 63%, many of which rely on Europe or London in Europe for their livelihood. Maureen says, Peter Lilley, your constituents believe the best future for the UK is within the EU, you should resign. Diane says, Anne Main puts her own personal benefit and views above the wishes and needs of her constituents. She was told weeks before the referendum that we were the 9th most pro-European constituency, but continued to campaign and vote for Brexit. In 2009, Anne Main was embroiled in the expenses scandal. I want to be represented by an honest MP who represents the views of her constituents. Too much to ask? I could go on, Madam Mayor. This is an unusual motion for this council, but I will be supporting it because I believe the people of this district want this council to speak out for them on this issue.